Welcome back to Voices of the Peace. My name is Ted Sloan, and I'm so excited that you're here joining us on this podcast. And we couldn't have done this podcast without our wonderful sponsors. Big thank you to Urban Systems and to Blue Wave Energy. This video podcast helps answer the questions about Fort St. John and the people who created the community and the area as we know. Sometimes you drive the street and you go, how'd that get built? Or you hear a song and you go, oh, that's someone local. How did that happen? Or you see a sports club and you go, what's the story behind that? Well, that's what this podcast aims to serve. And speaking of sports, my next guest today is someone who I met through the sports. And I always thought, oh, hockey might be this guy's thing. And then the more I got to know him and the older we got, I realized that he is tied into our speed skating community. And of course, if you've been in Fort St. John, our speed skating community is amazing. So I'm so excited today to talk to Richard Stickel here on Voices of the Peace. Hi, Richard. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
It's going to be so hard not to call you Mr. Stickel throughout this entire interview. No, as for listeners at home, Mr. Stickel, Richard was my coach for forever. So,
Yeah.
Okay, we talked a bit off air.
Yes.
Can you tell me, well, do you want to start with the history of the Elks or the history of how you got started with the Elks?
Either. I could talk about how I got started with it.
Yeah, let's chat about that.
Yeah, so we wanted to put our son in some sort of skating when he was 4 years old to get him ready for hockey. He didn't want to go and can skate, and so we knew some other families that had been involved with in the Elks Speed Skating Club, and they said, why don't you put him in there for, they do a really good job of teaching kids to skate. So we said sure. He was 4. We had a 3-year-old daughter that wouldn't do anything he did, she did. So she jumped in, and Dana ended up being a really good speed skater and really loving it. So that's kind of where we went with it. Ryan, our son, did go to hockey after a couple of years, but yeah.
Well, and I loved how you said, and we'll talk about this later, you started there and you're still there. So talking about still being there, I didn't realize until our conversation that our speed skating club here is the second oldest in BC, I understand.
Yeah, the first club in BC was actually in Dawson Creek, and then people from Dawson Creek, they came and helped get the Fort St. John club started. Gordon Strati was the first president of the Fort St. John Speed Skating Club.
Okay.
Back in 1964. So
I was thinking like the city would look vastly different in 1964.
Yeah,
So we had a speed skating club, which was fantastic.
Yeah. And by 65, we had national champions. So, Laura Wiles was a Canadian champion for her age class in 65. So
Laura Wiles.
Yes.
It's neat to look at names and go, oh, that person was young once, which I feel terrible about. Well, let's talk a tiny bit about that. One of my questions is, we have champions. I can think of Denny Morrison and I can think of Jay Morrison. And before that, I remember Linda Blair Johnson,
Yes.
the outdoor oval. Is there something weird in our water? Like how do we do that?
Well, we've had and people have asked that before, and I don't really know if I have a really good answer. Just that, if you talk to other clubs, they said, skaters from Fort St. John, they're gritty, they work hard, and I think there's just that success, and those kids that come up. There's been successful kids. The other kids follow them in practice. The kids start at 11 they start skating at 4, but typically they join my group about 11. Okay. And there's usually some skaters that are doing really well. And these skaters start, slowly start following them, and they get better. And there's just probably a belief that, you can, if you work hard, you can become good at it. Right. So they see kids succeed. Right.
Well, and it's neat too, because when you say that, like I've seen skaters come back here. I got to watch Denny Morrison and go, oh my gosh, he's so fast. But then also I know I call him their home humans, but that's neat is that success on an international scale is visible and the kids can talk and learn and train. You guys have made a really good community that way.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's kind of the effort that, the whole thing behind it is that, that it is a community that everybody involved, the parents, everybody else are part of the whole family, right? So, yeah. Well,
let's talk a bit about the history of that. It was so much fun to read. The Elks, you were saying that your wife has created a really cool almanac of sorts on the website. Do you have a favorite part or some favorite stories from the history of the Elks going, that part was cool, or this is really neat?
Yeah, I mean, just that whole thing, how it started, and the skaters that have come up over the years that are still in town, and I mean, there is the Denny's and Jay's, Linda Johnson, Kaylin Irvin skated in 2 Olympics. She moved from here when she was 15 or 16 and went to Calgary, but then she skated in a couple Olympics, and so there's just those stories. But there's so many kids that really. They did well for a while, or even if they didn't, they're a really integral part of the club for a long time, right? And you never really forget them. That they become an important part of everybody, right? So,
well, speaking of important parts, I kind of want to highlight some of the coaches. Like you, it was fun because the story you told me is, well, I signed up, someone asked me to do it, and I'm still here. So how do you, Fort St. John, I see a bunch of parents that are great coaches,
yeah.
And I also see that people who are not as familiar with speed skating learning lots. So can you tell me about the coaches of the club and how that works?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few coaches, of course. We have a lot of junior coaches. A lot of the older skaters go work with the younger kids. But there's usually a couple people that are working with the younger skaters and until they get to my group, and then we work with them. So Desiree.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So Desiree, and all the skaters out there and people, I'm going to ask Richard a bunch of questions. I'm slightly putting him on the spot. He's going to forget your names, and that's my fault. But we know there's an amazing team down there. So Desiree's one of them.
Desiree, yeah. And her mom, Tara, has been with the club. She was national champion one time. She's helped coach. She's done a whole bunch of stuff. Vim Koch has been involved for forever. And been so integral to the club, and there's been so many people come through and do really good work with the club over the years, and bring these kids up from when they're 4 and 5 years old all the way up, right? So and that's kind of a neat thing too, right? You have these kids start at 4 and they're still with kind of the same group all the way up, right? So it's pretty cool to do.
It must be like by the end of if they start at 4 and by the time they hit 18. It's kind of family at that point.
Yeah. No, they've been around for a long time, right? And you remember a lot of things about them, and you have a lot of fun with them, right? So it's pretty cool, and you watch them go and succeed in whatever they do. So it's nice.
Well, when you watch your kids go and succeed, I mean, you are a dad, but is it kind of neat watching and being like, oh, we helped coach that guy?
Yeah, it is. You hope that you've had some sort of help. You helped in some way with doing that, right? So that's kind of the whole purpose of it. So,
well, talking about those they go on. Something really cool about Fort St. John is we have had a number of really big level meets here, and so you host the small ones and big ones. What's it like to host the big Canadian ones and have what's that like?
It's really good. It's lots goes into that. Lots behind the scene. It takes a long time. You have to have certain levels of people involved. So your volunteer base has to have a high level of knowledge and experience. You need level 3 referee or level 3 coordinators and that sort of thing. And so people are working. We're doing a Canada Cup in December. People are working hard behind the scenes right now to make all that happen. It's really neat to bring in these people. It's really neat to know that you've got future Olympians skating on your ice, and have people from all over the country come in and be excited to be in Fort St. John and want to come here and skate. So it's pretty nice experience.
When you say come into Fort St. John, just doing the research, and I may or may not get this right. I think we have one of 4 ovals or limited ovals inside. I remember growing up and the vote happening and things happening. How did we get one of those ovals? Was that a push from the club, or was it a push from the city, or did you just happen to?
It was mostly the city. It was their vision at that time, and I think looking back, I was actually in meetings for speed skating in Vancouver, and the VANOC committee come in and gave a talk, and it was before they actually had the Olympics, and their vision was that they wanted the Olympic experience to spin off and be throughout the whole province. So they wanted to have centers of excellence for different sports in different areas. And, you know, I left there. I know at the meeting, you know, we're so far north, the provincial organizations, well, we should try to get some money spent on Prince George because it's kind of central, right? And I'm in the back thinking, no, we're the ones that put all the work into the long track. We should go back and see what we can do, right? And, you know, at that time I was thinking, you know, if we can do some improvements on our outdoor oval, maybe get a bigger building, you know, if we dream big, maybe get artificial refrigeration for those times when it gets warm. That would be so amazing, right? And I come back and kind of said that at the club, and they come back and said, well, the city's talking about having an indoor oval. My thought was like, we'll never get an indoor oval. Like, and, you know, they stuck with it. And I remember we had a Canada Cup 2 outside, and they were giving the talk. The city was giving the talk to the people at the oval banquet, and they said that they're going to build an indoor oval, and everybody kind of giggled, and then they stopped. They thought there's no way they can be serious, and they were. The city was really wanted that to happen, and they, I mean, kudos to them. That is, you know, we got a facility that people come in and rave about from all over the world. So it's pretty amazing right now. So and it was all them. So yeah,
cool. It's nice when you have a dream, and every once in a while you do. Every time you hear, you say, "Oh, we should dream big," and then for it to be like, "Oh, we did," and it happened. It's exciting.
Yeah. So there's actually 5 now because Quebec City just put one in. But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Was it when you talked about the old oval? I remember when I was, I think about 14 or 15. A wonderful lady by the name of Anita Lee said, we have to do a meet and I need someone to skate results from here to here. And I remember freezing.
Yeah.
What was it like to have an outdoor oval to skate on?
It was a lot different. And so I go in this indoor oval, and you know, I'm still pretty amazed, and I really revel in being warm and being light, because I remember standing out on the corner all the time watching for you know, for frostbite on the kids' cheeks in the dark, after you've shoveled off the oval if it just snowed, and you know, and trying to get a practice in, but send them in for warm up and come back out. So and that wind was always coming off the one side, right? So yeah, they got strong just skating into that wind all the time too. So it was a lot different experience than what kids have now, for sure, and what I have. So
well, when you say about wind and things, like I know our speed skaters. Does Fort St. John, like when we go places, do people go, oh, those are skaters from Fort St. John? Do they know us?
They do actually. Yeah, we're a well-known club throughout the whole country, and people know who we are, and a lot of people say they can tell a Fort St. John skater just by the style of how they skate. So yeah, I mean, I don't see it myself, but I always try to coach a certain way, and I'm sure every club does, right? So, and I do notice other clubs, and I do notice so I could see why they think that, but I'm too close to it to see it myself, right? But yeah.
Well, we talked a bit about this, and this will be a hard question to answer, but I'm interested. Something that I was interested with our speed skating club, we do have this big, okay, people know who we are. We have all this international people coming here, but it's crazy because I can call you and just go, hey, Richard, I want to chat about speed skating, or I can go to the oval and say, I want to learn how to speed skate. And the club has this really neat, welcoming community and a level of excellence. Are there key people behind the scenes that help make that happen, or is it just that's how it's worked all these years?
It's part of the DNA, and I mean, I always try to talk about that we're a recreational club with a competitive component. That there's places for people that you know, aren't super competitive. That's just not part of who they are. And everybody can come out and skate, right? And people from Vancouver and Lower Mainland stuff, you know, we run camps, and they come back saying how welcome they feel and stuff too. Like, right, everybody should feel that they're part of the whole group, right? So we try to do that, and people have always done that within the club. So I think it's just kind of part of the community, right? People come in and they move out, and we've become really welcoming, I think. So it's pretty nice.
Well, thinking about how much time you guys spend at that oval, and when you were talking about getting ready for this Canada Cup, like it seems like it's neat because in the speed skating club, if you want it to become your lifestyle, you can, but you also have room for people who can only volunteer for this amount of time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It takes a lot of volunteers to run an event, and you have people that were really involved for a long time, but you can still call them up if you need help, and they still come back out, and that's really nice. It's really nice to see people that you're really involved with for years and have kind of moved on and done other thing, and all of a sudden you see them again. Pretty neat experience, right? So you look and you see these people that and the experience they've gotten over the years as well too, right? So Tina Henry was the chief timer for the Olympics, right? So for the manual timing. So people have gotten really good experience, and we've had people that have really excelled at different aspects of things and stuff too, right? So
that's amazing. So
at the Vancouver Olympics,
that's what's really neat about this place. Is it sounds like you guys have us as a club also open the opportunity for parents or people to go, I really enjoy this, I'm going to go get more training. Like that seems to be something that happens a lot too.
Yeah. It is. And it's, just keep, you just want to keep building and having people involved and give them something that they can do, right? So it's good.
Well, with that opportunities, are there parts of you've been there for a few years now.
Yes.
Is there either A, something that keeps bringing you back, or B, a favorite part that you have to the sport?
Just being involved with group. I like things that are kind of technical, and I really like people, and so it gives me an opportunity to kind of work on technical things and be involved with people daily, sort of thing, whatever. So I find it really kind of fascinating, the whole thing. It's kind of neat. It's a small sport, so I've had a lot of conversations with national team coaches and people like Denny and other really good skaters and stuff, and you get to pick their brains and really kind of find out like deep inside of things. So it's pretty neat. So, yeah.
How many hours would you say kids are at the Oval? Like it sounds like a fair bit.
We try to hold back the younger kids, of course, and then as they get older, they're on the ice usually 5 hours a week for practice.
Okay.
So time you get there, warm up, get done, stuff. So it's a fairly big commitment of time, right? And then there's quite a few meets where you can go away on weekends. We don't ever put pressure on that you have to. We never say you have to go to this meet, or even I try not to even say you have to come to this practice. But what you put in is what you're going to get out for success, right? So and a lot of skaters are pretty driven anyway. So yeah.
Well, it's neat to hear that you guys you encourage them, and you're also not. I know that sometimes, especially intense sport or intense anything, can really drive people out because of how mean it can get. And that's not a comment or anything. It sounds like you guys are really, that love of the sport is something that drives the club.
Yeah, I think so. It's you have to. Everybody has to be able to put in whatever commitment that they're going to feel comfortable with, right? That's the recreational part of it. You can't push somebody to show up 5 days a week if that's not where their head's at. But if they're going to come 3 days a week, as long you get what you get out of it, what you put into it, and it's the same as most other sports, right? You want to be good on riding a bike, bike racing, you got to spend time in the bike seat, and same thing there. But nobody can really make you go in that seat if you don't want to be in that seat. So it's the same sort of thing.
And that's great, because it sounds too, from a teacher standpoint of view, it's neat because some of my kids, them coming this much is fantastic. I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to encourage them to go, there's this, but yeah, it sounds neat that you guys celebrate what you can, because that's all that they might be able to do that day. Oh, and you want to go further? Okay, we'll push you further. That's a neat atmosphere.
Yeah.
You mentioned going to meets and driving things all around. when it comes to recognition, sometimes the skaters get a lot of recognitions. That I mean, we've talked about the Morrisons, we've talked about Linda Johnson and things, but are there some people behind the scenes that are really some key people?
Yeah, Vim Koch, for sure. Like so many years putting in, an international level 5 referee. He's really been the driver of the club, I think, for a number of years. Many time vice president, never president.
He probably makes a point of not being the president.
But yeah, really super involved. There's been so many really good presidents that we've had over the years and have put work in. And so many coaches that spent years and years just with the young kids and really drove that part of it. So, my wife put years, and she's she's a level 3 meet coordinator and level 3, recorder, I guess. So she's been really super involved, but there's just been so many people have been so involved over the years, and I'm kind of scared of giving too many names.
That's
right?
true, because you don't want to miss someone out.
Yeah.
Go, I mentioned this.
No, and it's just it's a big club with a lot of people that have really put a lot of time and effort in. So
when you talk about like level 3, level 4, level 5, what does like Vim is a level 5 level coach? What does that mean? Or level 5 referee?
Yeah, just the amount of experience and the amount of courses you take in to get certain level, and then what you're able to do with that, like what kind of experience, like to be an international referee, that's what you have to be. Level 5, level 3 officials, that's what you need to have, or coaches, that's what you need to have to do certain things, right? So that's kind of so running a national event like a Canada Cup, you need level 3 officials to organize and run it. So it just depends. So that's been a big part of the club. Vim has really pushed that with we have a lot of officials, a lot of people put a lot of time in to get those designations and be able to do things. A lot of times we have half the people in the province, and we go places and it's our parents still that are kind of running a lot of meets and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
Well, I was going to ask, when you do have those big meets, how many people come in as opposed to how many people the Fort St. John has? It sounds like it can be a pretty good mix.
Yeah. We can do most of it ourselves. But the SSC, Speed Skate Canada, they give a certain amount of officials too, right? You need about 40 officials to run a meet. So
wow.
So yeah, it's a big commitment for everybody, right? It's a big commitment for the club. So you got to be kind of careful about how many meets you host over a year and stuff too, right? So.
Does it take, when you said we're hosting a Canada Cup this year, does it take, how long does it take to prepare for that? Is that, I assume the more you do, maybe the more you get used to it.
Yeah, but it's still a few months, 3 or 4 month preparation for it. So still some work.
That's somewhere. That's a lot of work.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's neat. We'll probably have 70, 80 skaters, so it'll be pretty good. And there'll be people that, on the national team and future Olympians will be out there, right? So it'll be pretty cool. So
that is really neat. And thinking about those meets, and I was looking back at the history. One of my favorite stories about the history, it said at one point, and you kind of alluded to it, that there's been times in Fort St. John's speed skating history where lights have gone out, so they've just shone headlights on and it's been out at Peace Island Park because it's been this. Are there stories that you really enjoyed, or events that you've been like, this is a really neat thing, I've enjoyed this the most?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I think it was not a good experience, but I think
sorry. Okay.
But there's even just with the oval itself. We got our oval. We were so excited, and we thought, well, everybody's going to come here. It's going to be so great. And somehow or other, got a rumor out in the speed skating world that we wouldn't be able to skate at our oval. It was dangerous to skate, and we couldn't understand where it had come from or what they were even saying. Jay Morrison, within a couple of years, he retired, and he come into town, and he's like, of course you can skate here. Like, I've skated all over the world, and this is as safe as any place. And Denny come. We had Christina Groves up here one time doing a camp. We had Mark Knowles and his wife. She's world champion Dutch lady, and he had skated in a bunch of Olympics, and it's like nobody could understand where it was coming from, right? But when I talked to people at SSC, it's like, well, no, it's too dangerous. And finally, it took about 4 or 5 years before people actually showed up from SSC to inspect it, and it's like, yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. And so, but yeah, it was a weird experience, right? Because we were trying to push, like, it's like we don't understand why we can't skate here, and there's a post somewhere that that they could run into, and but there wasn't, right?
No.
And nobody would believe us, but nobody would come and look at it, right? So it was it was just kind of a surreal experience overall, right? So for years it was like, well, it's too dangerous to skate in Fort St. John, and
it's
we
cold
knew it wasn't.
up here, but it's warm inside the arena.
Yeah. Skating outside was more dangerous, in a lot of places than here. If if you fall and you're just going off into a frozen snowbank, right? So, it's hard to figure out. Yeah, it's kind of a surreal experience for us.
I think it's neat that I can go skate on that oval, and I think it's cool that on Sundays, I can do that. I guess we have something really special in the city that they don't really have anywhere else, or only in 5 other places. It sounds like.
No, it is. It's an amazing facility, right? And the city, like, they maintain that ice, and the last Canada Cup before COVID we did here, they were like, the times went out around the world, like everything goes out, everybody knows what happened and what meet. You can go on, there's sites where they update, and you can look at all the skaters' times versus some 16-year-old skater here versus every other 16-year-old skater in the world that's got an official time done this weekend or this weekend, and the times have been like really good, right? So really, really fast, so people are, oh man, that's a fast rink. So it's really kind of a neat thing, right? So
that's we were talking before you came in about how this podcast is meant to go. Sometimes people think, oh, Fort St. John is a small place, we don't have that many things. But you're telling me, which is really neat, is like, no, we have an international rink, or people have seen, oh, Fort St. John's a fast place. Like, this is a really cool jewel.
Yeah. No, and you're, like I say, that weekend, I talked to people on the national team. They were racing somewhere in Holland, and it's like, wow, those times, like, people were shocked by how fast everybody was skating there, right? So it's a small community, small world, and they know, right? So yeah,
that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, thinking of that, thinking of the world, and thinking of the world of speed skating, when you started, or even right now, are there people that you look up to that you go, oh, this person, this is someone who I really learned a lot from?
And there's several. Of course, I always start with Vim, and but there's some of the coaches out of the Calgary Oval that I can ask questions of, as what do you do here? What do you think about this guy? What's next step? Some of those guys, there's just been so many people that really good people. Some of the referees and stuff out of Vancouver and stuff, that just amazing people, right? So yeah,
it sounds like too, it's neat. Something that I didn't really think about growing up, but Fort St. John has turned into this place where, I don't know the answer, so I can ask you. You might not know the answer, and you can ask those people in different cities. Like, the communication has gotten really good. Yeah,
it has, and people are willing to share, right? And I think it's important. I think over the years there's been a lot of times when people used to, and maybe in some sports, and maybe even people used to try to hide knowledge or whatever, and keep their little piece. But I think it's so important, that you be open, and if you have to explain something, then you have a better knowledge of it. So I find people have done that with me, and I try to do that with others. That give them as much knowledge as you can, right? So it doesn't matter if it's your own club or another club or whatever else it is, right? So you strengthen everybody as long, in your community. If you just do that, and so many people do that they're willing to share with you and pass on knowledge, right? So
I call it the cold effect here, and so this will be a tiny bit of a tangent, but working in different cities in the entertainment industry, Some cities were really wonderful because I go, I need help. And they would go, oh, come on over. And some cities were very competitive. And so looking at Fort St. John, I've always found it's so cold here in the winter that if we don't help each other, then when things go badly, we don't. So the city's really good at going, sure, here, I'll help you. And we really, it's a really lovely testament to our city.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Looking at, I gave you a list of questions. You have two questions that you get to answer. It's up to you.
Okay.
One, you've been in the industry or the speed skating world for a while.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what is one of the strangest things you've got to watch? It was fun hearing you say, I had to sit there and watch for frostbite on my people.
Yeah.
The other question might be, our city is an interesting place because we all have day jobs and then we have these jobs. So you pick your own adventure. How do you balance it all? Or what are some strange things that you've seen in speed skating?
I'll go with the whole balance thing, because I think there's so many pieces to that whole thing. If I start with the company I worked for years, I showed up late on Wednesday mornings because our practice went past my starting time, and it's like, I'll just work through my coffees if that's okay, and it was never a problem, right? And my family going off to practice. Usually I had at least one of my girls for years and years tagging along with me, sometimes two, sometimes three. And then, but they put up with me being gone on weekends and doing this and that, and things getting put off because I didn't get them done because I was gone. So my wife for putting up with things, and the club too, right? I just started doing something a little bit different, and so I'm not always there, and people cover and stuff. So there's so many people involved to keep somebody doing something, and I don't think that gets enough acknowledgement. That if somebody volunteers or somebody takes on more, it's just not them doing it. It's everybody else has kind of got to step up and do more too.
That's a beautiful way of saying it. I remember coming to hockey practice, and my mom, later in life, I go, Mom, you sacrificed a lot to drive me to that. And I volunteer in the community. And it took someone like you to point out and go, well, Ted, you're here, but your wife is there. So we do sacrifice a lot to keep things going.
Yeah.
So a big thank you to the people who support us.
Yeah, that's right. So,
when it comes to speed skating, it's neat is to hear about the relationship with the city being very supportive, and it sounds like there's other supporters. Like, it sounds as like the city is hopefully we cheer you on as a speed skating club.
No, we really feel supported, actually, like as part of the city. Yeah, we're really proud of the city and everybody in it, really. So yeah.
Awesome. Is there, okay, so when it comes down, I'm super interested in this. I didn't realize, you said you've got a timer, you've got this.
Yeah.
You said it takes about 40 people to run a meet.
Yeah.
Is there just because there's that many different roles to fill?
Yeah. There's a lot of different jobs that you have to have timers and place judges. You have electronic time. You have referees and people to get the athletes where they need to go. Hospitality. You have a whole bunch of different. You have recorders. You have a whole bunch of different positions that need to be filled for things to happen.
It sounds like you have to. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of knowledge. If I wanted to, and I'm putting you on the spot, so you don't have to answer this, but. Like you just said, you reached out and you were part of the club. Can people do that? Can people say, "Hey, I have a little person in the club. I'd like to volunteer." Does that happen? Do people do that?
Yeah, actually, we go out and ask, right?
Okay.
We need volunteers, right? And so we go out and ask, and we really look to those people, the little people, because we really would like to keep those kids in, whatever. But those little people are going to grow up to be the top skaters eventually, and their parents are going to be there, right? So we try to get them early and just be part of this. And I look over at meets and I see the timers and the place judges laughing, and I see people have fun. I think they have fun during the day, right? So it's supposed to be a fun thing. I remember Mike Landucci, a hockey referee. I worked with him. We got him out the one year doing some place judging, and he goes, "Man, it's you feed you and nobody yells at you. It's good." So yeah.
So I've got many good memories of it. 'Cause I remember the first time I did something and someone said, "Here's lunch." And I went, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, of course you eat lunch. You guys take care of your volunteers very well."
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's part of the thing, right? It's part of just the whole community thing. So yeah.
have you ever speed skated yourself?
You know, I didn't when I was growing up. I knew a lot of speed skaters. I knew lots of people at the Elks Speed Skating Club, but I didn't. Somebody once said, "Well, you can actually do this," because I showed them one time. Like I just went out and skated, but I typically don't because it's one of those things that I can tell the kids, "No, you're not low enough. No, you got to do this and that." But if they watch me, then I'd have to explain that whole thing. No, you have to do what I say, not what I do. So I just don't bother. So I stand there and yell at them. No, I don't yell. But
I don't think I've ever actually heard you yell. So, well, you bring up something interesting. When I was looking up at the history, not only do we have some really good young skaters, we also have some really good senior skaters. And I use the word senior, but we have a few people who are maybe parents or who've jumped in maybe a bit later and then gone on to do some amazing things.
yeah. No, we had the World Masters here the one year, and
The World Masters.
the World Masters.
Cool.
So we brought people in. There's a whole group from Italy and Norway, and I think we'll do it again one day. But yeah, it was a really interesting experience. But we've had a lot of people come through and as what we call master skaters, and
That's a better way of saying than senior skaters.
yeah, and they've done well, and a lot of times they built their own little group together, and some only do it for a year or two. They want to just give it a try. Some people stay for 5 or 6 years, and it's a wonderful way of staying in shape and stuff too, right? So
Especially in the winter when it's so
yeah,
cold.
yeah, it's a nice warm building. It's nice and light in the middle of a dark winter, right? So, but yeah, so it's we've had a lot of people give it a try, right? We'd love to keep building on that part of it. My dream would be to have to have the lap skate time on the oval where everybody's in their speed skates and going around and around, right? That'd be pretty cool if we could get enough people to learn to speed skate and be happy just going out for a skate, right?
That would be amazing.
So yeah.
Okay, this question is out of the blue. This is something that I think is amazing. When I watch hockey skaters, they look like they're working hard.
Yeah.
When I watch a speed skater, they look like they're barely breaking a sweat, but I know they're working hard. Is that taught calmness there, or is that just part of the sport?
Yeah, you have to kind of teach that a little bit, right? I always like to tell the story. I watched Denny Morrison in Calgary when he said, I think it was probably his PB, the fastest he ever skated, a 500, and he was not a 500 meter skater. That wasn't his distance. Still really good at it, and the time was a world class time, but that wasn't his distance, right? And he skated the 500, and it was really fast. And but he looked like he was really fast. But then just after him come Jeremy Weatherspoon, who that was his distance. He was world champion at it, the best in the world, and he come out and he skated it, and I thought, oh, he must just be kind of in training because he's not working, after watching how hard Denny worked, and he's not really working. And he set a world record, right? So, it is really hard. Like they're exhausted when they're done. They have to skate to the point of exhaustion. Doesn't matter the distance, right? They have to leave it all out there in each distance, but they have to stay efficient. So, the skate is nice because it gives you good glide. But it's super important if you want to have a fast time, not to look like you're putting a lot of effort in. So
It's one of the unique sports where, like, I run, and someone said once, "I'll run a marathon when a marathoner looks happy." But in speed skating, you guys just look so stoic and so wonderful. So
yeah, it's a learned thing, right? So how to be calm and get through that, right? So yeah.
speaking of calm, and I only want to chat for a tiny bit about this, but you've mentioned a few times Vim is amazing at staying calm, and I just love it when he goes around. Looks very official. It sounds like when it comes to the world of speed skating, we owe a lot to Vim Coke.
We do. Yeah, he's the province does. He's nationally, he's done a lot of things. So yeah, he's been super important, and it's super important to this club. Yeah.
And I would say to me, he's also a testament in that I used to bike ride with him,
Yeah.
and I would never know of his pedigree in the thing, because I could say, hey, about speed skating, and he could just talk to him and just go, oh yeah, there's this, and I'm like, oh, you've done. Now I know. I'm like, oh, it's like me talking to Bruce Springsteen about how do you string a guitar. So he's
Yeah.
quite an individual.
Yeah, he is very much so. Yes. Yes.
We're coming to the end of our time, but I was going to ask if someone is interested in the club.
Yes.
Is there a good way to talk to the club or to look up the club? You have an amazing website. Is there
Yeah.
things that people can do?
Yeah, I mean, if you can look on the website, there's numbers on there that will get you somebody that can register you and everything else. We do have a try at times. You can come out and get skates at certain points of the year and give it a try. We'd love to have anybody out.
When you mentioned, okay, so skates, that's good because sometimes the first time before I ever speed skated, and I've tried it a whopping once, and was like, there are good people in this sport. If people are nervous about the equipment and stuff, it sounds like you guys, you can help people navigate those problems.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we can provide all the information that you need to get you going, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also, may not know the answers. Is there any reason why it's called the Elks Speed Skating Club, or is that just in time memoriam? It's always been the Elks.
The Elks community group was a major sponsor.
Really?
Always, yeah. So became the Elks. I think they still might be. I'm not sure, but they sponsored us for years and they're so amazing. So that's what we became, and that's what we are.
That's fun. Okay, and then last question. You said that Dawson Creek had a club and we had a club. Is there a friendly rivalry with Dawson Creek? Is they part? Is it just we're a big club up north? What's that?
Yeah, no. It was, the clubs are all kind of close, and I don't even ever think there's a rivalry. We kind of try to help each other out. All the clubs, especially in the north, Grand Prairie included. If they called and said, "Hey, can you give us a hand?" We would love to help them out, right? And it's kind of like that through the whole province. I think in some of the southern clubs there might, because they're so close to each other, there might be a little bit more competitiveness between the clubs. But no, I don't think there is. I think I think the whole philosophy is, we want our skaters to be big fish on big ponds. So if we don't help each other out, then we don't have good competition to improve ourselves too, right? So
that's a neat look at it.
Yeah. So we have to work together and look out for each other too. So
yeah, I like when you've mentioned it before. If I help you, you get better, and then I get better because you're better. It's a big collaboration.
Yeah. If I it's no good being a little bit faster than somebody that's like, you want to be as fast as the fastest person in the country, is basically the bottom line, right? And so that's who you want to skate with, and so you want to help make those people around you better, because they're going to help make you better, right? So yeah.
And it also breeds a really neat community, because if I know that you're helping me, I want to help you, and it sounds like you guys have done a really good job at that. Yeah, I hope so. It's the aim, right? So I don't think it should be any different than, I played hockey all my life, whatever, but if I want to be on a good hockey team, I want the team I'm playing against to be good too, right? Mm-hmm. So it should work in every sport, right? I fully agree.
So yeah.
You mentioned Canada Cup. When is the Canada Cup?
January 10th and 11th, 12th, I believe it is. So, yeah. So, actually, we have 3 big meets this year. We have, we always, of course, have, we typically run the BC Provincials, and then we're actually doing the Canadian Youth Championships too. So, there'll be people from across, younger kids, 11, 12, 13-year-olds from across country coming in February as well this year. So
that must be exciting when you have people coming from places here to like, oh, looking forward to it, but also just watching and feeling new people, new experiences. That must be a really cool atmosphere.
It is, and yeah, people enjoy being here. It's they're not, I gotta go to Fort St. John. They want to come and they want to skate here. So
is part of that because we're inside, or is that because it's just a great place?
No, they can go, like, they go to Calgary, they go to Quebec City now, but this is just another little bit different venue, a little bit different, and they like it. And some skaters really excel here, so they'd rather be here than in Calgary sometimes. Some of them. So yeah.
That's a neat thing, because I know that sometimes people go, oh, I can't wait to get out of Fort St. John when you go, but hey, people do like coming here, and I think that we don't celebrate that enough sometimes.
Yeah, and it's nice, sports teams bring in people, and it's an important part of your community too, right? And welcome people. So yeah.
You've done a really good job. I have all these questions, and I let you know at the beginning that we might not get through. We've got all through them.
Oh, good.
Is there anything that you wanted to add more, or
no? Just thanks for having me on. It's nice to be able to talk about the club. It's nice to be able to talk about the history of the club, because there's, my family, we've been involved for 30 years, but there's a long time before we got there that or is it 30? No, 20 some years, I guess, 94 to now, whatever it is. But there was a whole time before that the club was very active and done a lot of work as well. So,
well, I guess you mentioned 1964.
It's 1964, yeah.
And the city has changed. That's what really got me interested. Is like, okay, when I think of the 60s. And then the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, I've watched things grow and fall and grow and fall. But the club has always been there. Like there's been so many people who've come through.
Yeah. No, it's been a really amazing thing. So yeah. There's I think of all the different clubs and all the different sports and the people that put work in, and we're just part of that. And there's so many good clubs and sports in this town, and I'm people that I'm really amazed by that have done a lot of work, and so. It's good to be in with all of them as well too. So
Well, you also bring, that's a lovely thing, is that sports. Sometimes people think that sports can live in a vacuum, but sports don't often. You have to collaborate with other ice users. You have to, you have to be a community up here, or else no one can do anything.
That's right. Yeah. So it's been good.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. And if people Google Elks Speed Skating Club, that'll bring them to the website. And
yes.
And they can always, I always notice posters and things at the Pomeroy Sports Center as well. So.
Yeah. So we're always happy to have anybody contact us and they ask us questions and see what they can do to get out, and it'd be great.
Thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And for you watching at home, thanks for, and listening at home, thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. I fully encourage you. One of the coolest things you can do is, on these big meets, is either volunteer to be part of them or just to watch. And you get to watch the world, or the country, be excited about Fort St. John. Thanks again for watching. We look forward to seeing you next time. I'm Ted Sloan.